Monday, the 16th of February. Is the United States going to attack Iran? And how will Israel respond? And how will Iran respond? That's what we're going to talk about in this video. Hey, Halsey, what do you reckon?
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, man. Is the United States going to attack Iran?
I don't think that's a simple question in the slightest.
Oh, well,
I think
it was a good hook. The whole thing was a hook for the beginning of this video. Everybody stay listening.
I think if Trump could get the deal he wants from Iran, which is probably like not possible, but I think if he can even get close, I think he'll take it. I don't think
what is the deal that he wants?
He wants no nuclear enrichment. He wants the material that they've already enriched to 90% to be taken out of the country. He wants limitations on their missile program and some sort of problem that they won't, just kill 10,000 protesters every weekend and stuff like that. I don't think they'll agree to any of that, but you never know. The question is, what will he do if they don't agree to it? Is he going to just go after their missile programs and their nuclear programs and just go from there? Is he going for regime change? We know what they'll do if anyone attacks, whether it be America, Israel, or both. They're going to launch missiles at Israel and probably at American bases. So what will that mean? Who knows? Again, the wild card is what will either of them do in the event of a mass casualty event? Right? Like they could shoot missiles all day at Israel, but if like 1, 2 people die, like in every now and then, like Israel can put up with quite a bit. But if they hit like an apartment building, let's say, and kill like a couple hundred people, there's no way Israel can put up with that. And it's the same with an American base. If they are shooting missiles all day long at the American base at CENTCOM in Qatar, America doesn't really care. Like let them do all they want. But if they hit and kill a bunch of soldiers, there's no way America can be okay with that. And that's the powder keg that we're dealing with,
Okay, let me take it back to something you said in the beginning, which was the deal that America wants is for Iran to not have any nuclear enrichment. Why? There are other countries that are developing nuclear power.
Okay.
Why shouldn't Iran be able to do that? What's the big deal?
Okay, so number one, this is a scientific argument. Okay, number one, you don't need 90% enriched uranium for nuclear power. In fact, the idea of it is ridiculous. That there's no reactor that works on 90% enriched uranium. The only thing you can do with it is make a nuclear bomb, and you can make every now and then you can make some types of medical isotopes. Okay, but there is no purpose to it whatsoever. Secondly, nuclear power can be provided for without enriching uranium at all. You can have a light water reactor and not have any chance whatsoever of turning it into plutonium or highly enriched uranium. But yet Iran hasn't chosen to do either of those things. They've chosen to enrich to the point where the only real thing that they'd be enriching that much uranium for is a bomb. Okay. They want people to think it's about nuclear power and all of that. It's for a bomb.
Okay, but Israel has nuclear weapons. Pakistan has nuclear weapons. India has nuclear weapons. What is the big? Why shouldn't Iran have them? By the way, I'm not advocating for it.
I know. No, you're throwing a question out there which many people have asked, and depends on how I'm feeling for the day. But I'll give you a whole bunch of the answers that people typically give.
Sure.
One, if they did have a bomb, there's a pretty wide consensus they wouldn't have a problem using it.
Yeah.
Okay. And Israel's had nuclear weapons since the 70s. They've never used them. They've never threatened to use them. Like they won't even acknowledge that they really have them. Okay. Like their policy is called nuclear ambiguity. Like they don't openly say they have them, even though everyone knows they do. Right. India and Pakistan have nuclear bombs, but they're not threatening to nuke each other. Like Putin threatens to nuke people all the time, which makes me think his nuclear bombs don't work. But I mean, just a little fun fact for you: the United States spends $90 billion every year upgrading its nuclear arsenal to make sure that they work and they're safe. Russia's entire military budget is $60 billion. How are they maintaining the largest nuclear arsenal on the planet? I would probably say that most of them don't work. I'm sure he has some that do, but I don't think he has the arsenal that he claims. And then you have, again, China, You have North Korea. Like North Korea understands. Would they use a nuclear weapon? Sure, but they understand it means their complete obliteration. Like not even China could stop what would happen to North Korea if they used a nuclear weapon. Nobody cares about France. Nobody cares about Britain, and no one's telling America what to do. Right now, the question, but there's a real question that has to be asked. What happens if Iran does get a nuclear bomb? Okay, and that's that Saudi Arabia will immediately want one as well. Turkey probably will as well. Qatar would it try to buy one from anyone who will offer, because these people are all regional rivalries. Just because they all can agree they don't like Israel doesn't mean they don't hate each other just as much. And I think the last thing we need is a nuclear arms race in the Middle East. You know, and as I said, no one can answer the question with confidence that Iran wouldn't use it. You know what I'm saying?
But the same could be said of Israel, that Israel is this regional power that has a nuclear bomb.
Mm-hmm.
And who knows how Israel could behave. You know, they haven't used it so far, and let's hope they never do. God forbid they ever do.
I would say, you know, 50 years of non-use would kind of like give them some kind of slack. Not to mention their conventional army is so much light years ahead of any regional rival that I think it's pretty safe to say that just like the US, a nuclear bomb is a weapon of last resort. You know, like the enemies are at the border, the everything's fallen. There is no more stopping them from just ransacking the country. That's when it gets used. You know, and to deter obviously a first strike with chemical, biological, or nuclear weapons from a rival.
Okay. So where were we then? So
the argument of why shouldn't they be allowed to have a bomb is one that I think people can ask, but I think also, by the way, the simplest reason is because America and Israel said no. That you can make a philosophical argument that they should be allowed, but Israel and America have said if they move to get a bomb, we'll go to war.
Right.
So in the end of the day, that's the answer. Like it doesn't matter whether theoretically it's okay or whether theoretically, you know, what's the problem. The issue is that if they move towards a nuclear bomb to that level, America and the U.S. America and Israel will go to war. So what have you really gained from trying to get a nuclear weapon?
So if Trump doesn't get that deal, that agreement from Iran, which you said he's not going to, then what are the options? Limited strikes? He's not going to put boots in the ground. That's not his way.
I don't think so either. But remember that there is a very fine line between what you're willing to do and not willing to do based on the situation. Right? Like, okay, let's map this scenario out. Trump sends in the planes, they start bombing the crap out of Iran, right? They destroy their nuclear ambitions, they start killing all their missiles, and then the IRGC starts just wrecking people. Starts slaughtering people in the street, all their opposition, all the minorities, they just go to town, killing people. We're not putting boots on the ground at that point. You know, like there'd be a strong argument that we should. What?
You know, it's way more powerful than Iraq ever was, and see how that turned out.
Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that I would approve of it. Yeah. I'm just saying I could see a scenario where it happens. And I think that that's probably why they're trying to exhaust even if the avenues are stupid, like even if they know that Iran's not going to agree to anything, I think they're trying at least to say we tried everything we could. And I think probably they would go for a regime change. But I think the biggest problem is no one knows who comes next. Typically, the people who come next are the people with the guns.
Yeah.
So, you know, like I know there's a lot of people out there with pie in the sky dreams of this Shah Reza Pahlavi, you know, being shipped in by the West, who's going to usher in democratic happiness forever. That's about as stupid as they come. Like that's not happening. So who's going to take over? What areas are going to stay Iran? What areas are going to try to separate? I think that he knows this is going to open up a hornet's nest, and he's really trying to determine, like, what can we do to avoid opening the hornet's nest, and even if we do open it, how do we contain it?
And how do you do whatever you were going to do and still keep Russia and China at bay, if not on side?
Russia's already said they're not going to help Iran against us, which they would be absolute morons if they even tried, which they won't. China doesn't care. China has no love for Iran. They just love their oil.
I mean, Tom talks about the southern transport corridor going through Iran, leading to which gives China access and Russia access to the Indian Ocean.
Yeah, do you think that would stop if all of a sudden we change the regime? I don't think so.
Okay, and then what about the fact that they're supplying arms and defense equipment?
Their arms and defensive equipment aren't like anything people should be afraid of. Like the American military is so much further advanced than either one of them. I know people like to like have these pie in the sky dreams that China really has like all of this super tech that could defeat America, and so does Russia and all of that. They don't. If the like I was at a conference once, and it's years and years and years ago, and I was talking to a friend of mine who works at the Department of Defense, and he said to me, he's like, I don't know if you can fathom the damage that the American military could do if the political will was there to use it. Now, obviously, it hasn't been for quite some time since World War II, but if the political will was there, I mean, we have 12 aircraft carriers, carrier strike groups that can go anywhere in the world, no problem. China has 2 aircraft carriers. One of them has never launched a plane, nor can it. They're using it for drones. The other one, they put it in the water and it sank. Okay. Russia has, I think, 3. 2 of them are pulled by tugboats. Okay. Like, I'm not saying all their stuff is complete garbage, but when compared to what America could do if it really wanted to, right? It's just it's night and day. It doesn't exist. Like, we can all be afraid of China all we want. China is afraid of us. China wouldn't have an easy time taking Taiwan, even if we didn't get involved. China's military is very rudimentary. Like, I know people love to talk about drone swarms, but like, just pay attention to the hardware we've come out with. They have a microwave weapon right now that just knocks drones right out of the sky. Right? China has it and we have it. So, like, I don't think that we should be worried about what happens if Russia and China get involved. They won't. All that China wants to know is the oil is still going to flow towards them, which Trump has already shown them through Venezuela that it will. So I don't think China is a factor at all, and Russia has already openly said they're not going to assist Iran militarily. Neither one of them's going to say no when Iran says, hey, we want to buy $100 million or $100 billion worth of all your crap. They're not going to say no, but it's going to be meaningless.
Okay, but Iran has hypersonic missiles. It's getting the S-400s. Surely that counts for something.
So Venezuela had the S-400s. We went and took Maduro out without them even knowing we were there. Like, Syria had them. Didn't really help them all that much. Iran had them the first time. Israel had complete air superiority after literally like a couple hours. Like, they were literally able to operate over the entire country with no fear of being shot down. So it's I think a lot of it is hype, and I think a lot of it is people want to believe that there's parity out there. Just remember, the United States spends more on its military every year than the next 5 countries combined. And that's every year.
Okay, you clearly have a lot more insight and knowledge about this than I do. That much is evident in this conversation, right? But isn't a lot of that wastage and bloat and defense contractors creaming as much as they can?
Okay, so let's have some fun with this. Let's play a little thought experiment. Okay. Let's say 1/3 of America's military budget is bloat and garbage and waste. It means absolutely nothing. A full third, which is nuts. It's not a full third. But let's say it is. Okay. they're still spending more than Russia and China combined on their entire military every single year. Like, and I mean by light years. And again, we hear reports all the time about really cool gadgets that Russia put into play, but guess what? None of it works. Like our aircraft carriers work, our missiles work. On election eve, when Trump got reelected on election day, and this was scheduled in advance. One of the few things I actually give Biden's military a little credit for, they scheduled a test, right, of our upgraded land-based nuclear weapons, and proved by doing it, not by saying it, but by doing it, that our missiles can literally hit anywhere in the world within a half an hour. From the time the button is pressed, it can land anywhere on the planet within a half an hour, and it worked flawlessly. We don't need a hypersonic missile. You know what I'm saying? Our Tridents can be launched from Oklahoma and land anywhere in the world in 30 minutes. Our nuclear subs can go off the coast of anywhere. They carry enough nuclear power that it would literally just waste an entire country. I think they have 20 missiles each one with 10 warheads. So that's one sub. I think we have like 15 of them.
Okay.
Like,
then moving on a little bit to Venezuela, what do you know about the weaponry that the U.S. used in Venezuela when they took out Maduro?
what they used was called electronic warfare that we don't brag about because why would you tell the enemy what we have? That means that when their radar turns on, it doesn't work. That means when all of their surface to air missiles and everything turns on to defend the country, it doesn't work. It can't see us, it can't hear us, it doesn't know we're coming, it doesn't know we showed up, and it doesn't know we left. That's electronic warfare. And America and Israel are so far advanced that other countries don't know what to do. You know, I think it's number one, a byproduct of capitalism. And for Israel, it's a byproduct of survival. Like they have to be a step ahead, otherwise they die.
Mm-hmm.
So they just keep in it. Like, I'll give you an example. I love this shit, by the way. I could talk about this for hours because military tech blows my mind. Just I'm a math guy. So Israel was asked by the US because the US wanted to test its missile shield, right? In order to test a missile shield, you need a dummy missile, right? And they can't be firing intercontinental ballistic missiles from all over the world towards the US because it wouldn't work. Like number one, they have to land somewhere, and number two, they have to be launched from somewhere. Okay, so Israel created a missile that was fired from a plane that takes a ballistic arc, meaning it goes from the plane, goes up into space, and comes down in a ballistic arc, just like a ballistic missile would, right? That's amazing in and of itself. But someone in Israel said, well, wait a minute. If we can create this dummy missile to test missile defense shields, why don't we make it a real missile that a plane could be anywhere in the world and shoot this missile on a ballistic arc so no one would even know where it came from? That was what they used on Iran after the first pretend back and forth, when Iran shot all those missiles and didn't hit anything. And then Israel shot one missile and it hit pinpoint accurate exactly where it was supposed to. And all of a sudden everybody shut up. Like that was one of those. They announced it was called the Rampage. There are innovations like this all over the US and Israel, which is, by the way, why they have such strong military cooperation, because the shit that they invent just blows everybody's minds. Russia and China, the best they can do is steal those plans and try to make their own, which they suck at. You know,
Okay.
you ever use fucking fake iPods from China, like the earbuds? That's their military when they steal our plans for our military's stuff as well.
Right. Okay. And what doesn't Russia have electronic jamming equipment? There was something I read about. Was it the USS Cook or something many years ago?
I'm sure they have stuff that has worked at times. And I'm sure that they have stuff that probably has been developed specifically against our stuff. The biggest problems are they don't know what we actually have. You can only develop against what you know people have, which, by the way, is another reason why Israel and the U.S. military-industrial complex are so close. All the time for the last 50, 100 years, however long it's been, all you hear about, Israel planes flew into Syria and bombed an empty aspirin factory. They flew into Lebanon and did this. They flew into Iraq and did this. And it doesn't seem like anybody really died. It doesn't seem like it had any point. What do you think they were doing? They were testing American military equipment against Russian defenses. That's what they've been doing. Russia can't test against our stuff because no one uses it. If they start flying Su-57s over Israel, Israel will shoot them down. They can't test against our stuff because there's no one that they could test it against. We test against Russian shit all the time because the people that have the Russian shit can't stop us from doing it.
Wow. Okay, so what else does the US have that you know about that people generally wouldn't know about?
Just the other day, Iran sent 2 spy drones to look at one of the aircraft carriers we've got in the Gulf.
Mhm.
They used the Helios system to basically use a laser to shoot them both out of the sky. We're now at the point where we can use laser weaponry that costs a couple dollars per shot because all it costs is some electricity. And remember, those are nuclear powered vessels, so they don't need to burn coal in order to use them. Okay, we are at the point of Star Wars, like where we're using laser guns and shit like that, and we're only going to get better at it. You know,
just like in the movies.
hmm I mean, there have been weapons that we've developed that we never put into play because we just thought it was wrong to put them into play. I love the name of it. Have you ever heard of the rod from God? They invented a satellite that takes tungsten rods up into space and can drop them from a satellite where they'll land pinpoint accurate, just drop them. And they're so heavy and falling from such a height that they hit with the force of a nuclear bomb and they could be rerouted to hit anywhere in the earth within 10 minutes. And no one would see them coming because they fell from a satellite. And it's just a metal rod. There's no radar signature. There's no thrust. There's no trajectory. It just drops. And they decided this was too bad that they weren't going to make. I mean, for all I know, they did, and just didn't tell anybody. But the American military is so far advanced that, and again, if you get EM on with me, you'll hear us argue about this. He'll claim just the opposite. He'll claim that China and Russia are so further advanced than us, we don't want to fight them. I just don't agree. So.
Okay, now Russia recently announced a missile that can fly around the world and carry nuclear warheads.
Mm-hmm.
How does that work? What does the US have?
So if I know what you're talking about, I think what you mean is that basically it's a missile that can be shot that can stay in orbit and just fall out of the sky whenever it wants. Yeah, we've all had those for a long time. Like they linger. Like just nobody really uses them.
Okay, and then the Oreshnik, which is hypersonic, ridiculously powerful, conventional bombs, but as damaging as a nuclear bomb, but without the radiation, is my understanding.
I wouldn't go that far, but okay.
Okay, and it terrifies the Europeans.
It terrifies the Europeans because it can be shot from Russia to Europe in probably, I would say, like a few minutes. It can be launched from Russia and land in Europe in a few minutes. America doesn't have that problem because a hypersonic missile shot from Russia, first of all, just so you know, all missiles that are intercontinental are hypersonic. They go into the atmosphere and go to about 172,000 miles an hour. Like it's once they exit the atmosphere on its ballistic arch, like they're going very fast. They're going way faster than any ground-based hypersonic missile. The thing is that we care about, that Europe cares about, is that they're short range. They can go from Russia to Europe and hit so quick that they don't know what happens. America doesn't have to have those kind of things. America is isolated by 2 oceans. You know what I'm saying? If we wanted to shoot something at Russia, we wouldn't use a hypersonic missile. We would use an intercontinental ballistic missile. Which, as I said, ours are so much more advanced than anybody's. It's scary to think about. There's also another big difference. We test our stuff out in the open so that people can see that it works. Russia and China don't. They just like to announce that shit works, and then they just hope everybody believes them. And they claim they sell it to all these people. And there's always an excuse too. Oh, Syria had the S-400, but Russia didn't give them the activation keys to use it. So it didn't actually get used, but it would have been awesome if it did get used because it would have targeted all the Israeli planes. Like, okay, that doesn't make any sense. Why would you create a whole bunch of cutting edge systems that you use that you don't actually let them be used? Why would someone buy it? If Russia could say, yeah, we're just going to let them bomb the shit out of you. We don't want you activating that thing. Then why would I buy it if I didn't have the ability to activate it? You know, there's always an excuse as to why their stuff didn't hold up to go against American stuff. And people love to point out that Russia and Ukraine, because supposedly, listen, I don't know. Again, I told you before, I don't know enough about it, but supposedly a lot of people think that Ukraine is just getting buried by Russia, and that Ukraine has all this Western shit and it's just getting, destroyed by the Russians. From what I understood, most of the shit we gave them is old crap.
Mm.
Like when we announced that we were giving them like planes, right? We set aside billions for planes. We didn't give them like F-16s and all of that. What we did was we paid Poland and all the Eastern Bloc countries to give all their old Soviet crap to the Ukraine that they didn't want anyway, and we replaced their shit with top-notch American stuff. The Ukrainians don't know how to operate that stuff. You know what I'm saying? So yes, we spent a lot of money, but we didn't give any of it to them.
Oh wow, Halsey. Fascinating. Fascinating. Well, let's take it back to Iran and Israel. How do you think it's going in the United States? How do you think it's going to play out?
I would like to think that there's probably going to be an American strike. Will Israel be involved from the beginning? I don't know if they would want to be. I mean, granted, if America asked them to, they would. But I think they're going to be more concerned because no matter what, if America launches any kind of attack on Iran, they're going to target Israel. So I would have a feeling that Israel would be more worried about home front command and protecting from incoming missiles. I'm quite sure whatever assets Israel has on the ground in Iran or could provide, they will. But like, what are they going to say to America? Sorry, we're busy. Like, no, of course not. They both have a vested interest in seeing it happen. So the question now becomes, what is the goal? Is the goal to topple the IRGC and install a new regime? Well, who?
Yeah.
And if is that who going to be better than what they have right now? No one can tell. So I don't know. Like I'm still 50-50 on whether it's even going to happen. I know that puts me in a very small mind. Everyone I know thinks it's going to happen, right? I'm 50-50. I think there has to be an objective that can be reached that isn't going to explode in Trump's face, and I'm not sure he has that. So
we shall see. We shall see. Halsey, thank you so much. Really appreciate this. I'll have the links in the description below where people can find your work and follow you on X. And let us know in the comments, do you think it's going to happen? Do you think the US is going to strike Iran? And if so, why? This is Rich and Halsey signing out. All the best.
Take care.
Bye-bye.